The 2023 play-in tournament is here, and in today's video, I'm going to be giving you guys my predictions for who's going to get the 7th and 8th seeds in the Eastern and Western Conference. I've been doing this every year since the play-in tournament has been implemented, and later this week on Saturday, you guys will get my full playoff predictions when we know who gets the 7th and 8th seeds. We actually have some pretty good matchups this year, and I'll give a quick rundown if you don't know how the play-in tournament works. So tomorrow, we're going to see the 7-8 seeded matchups. We're going to see the Atlanta Hawks versus the Miami Heat and the LA Lakers versus the Minnesota Timberwolves. The winner of those games ends up getting the 7th seed. So if for example, Heat beat the Hawks, they end up getting the 7th seed. They're going to be going up against the Boston Celtics in round 1. And if the Minnesota Timberwolves defeat the LA Lakers, they're going to be going up against the Memphis Grizzlies in round 1. Now on Wednesday, we'll see the 9-10 matchups. We'll see the Toronto Raptors versus the Chicago Bulls, and we'll see the New Orleans Pelicans versus the OKC Thunder. Whoever loses those games gets fully eliminated. They enter the draft lottery. Whoever wins plays the loser of the 7-8 matchup on Friday, and then whoever wins that game ends up being the 8th seed. So whoever gets that matchup in the East is going to be going up against the Bucks in round 1, and in the West they're going to face the Nuggets in round 1, and the loser of that game will end up in the draft lottery also. So before we hop into the predictions, let me know in the comments who you have advancing in the play-in tournament into the full playoff bracket. We're going to start off in the Eastern Conference. The 7th seeded Miami Heat are going to be hosting the 8th seeded Atlanta Hawks. Honestly, every Eastern Conference team in the play-in tournament has been a massive disappointment this season. The Heat being in the play-in tournament is just uncharacteristic of them, so it's pretty disappointing. The Hawks got DeJounte Murray last offseason and really haven't taken advantage of their momentum from the 2021 playoffs, in which they beat the Sixers in round 2 to go to the Eastern Conference Finals. They're in the play-in tournament. The Chicago Bulls and Toronto Raptors definitely had higher expectations going into the season and ended up in the play-in tournament. The Heat and the Hawks played in the worst division this season, so they played each other 4 times. The Heat went 3-1 in those 4 games. All 4 games were decided by less than 10 points though, so you know that this is going to be a close matchup. Jimmy Butler only played in 3 of those games, but he averaged 25 points, 8 rebounds, and 6 assists in those 3 games. But Trae Young struggled against Miami. He did so last year in the playoffs in round 1, and in the games he played against the Heat this year, he did have 20 points and 10 assists, but he shot 35% from the field and 20% from 3. Not great at all. We know the past couple of seasons, though, the Heat have definitely turned it up a notch in the playoffs. Jimmy Butler just becomes a top 10 player. We know how good of a defender Bam Adebayo is, but there's been some disappointments on the Miami Heat this year. Duncan Robinson, Kyle Lowry, Kevin Love, who they got in the buyout market. And this team really doesn't have a lot of depth either. Atlanta definitely has more depth, though, with Trae Young, DeJounte Murray, Saddiq Bey, Bogdan Bogdanovic, DeAndre Hunter, Collins, Okongwu, Capella. They're definitely missing Kevin Huerter, though, in his elite 3-point shooting that's going down in Sacramento. These teams are kind of the opposite. Atlanta is a top 10 offensive team, but a bottom 10 defensive team, and the Heat are a top 10 defensive team, but a bottom 10 offensive team. Both are hovering around the same in their net rating. My X factor for the Miami Heat is Kyle Lowry. Are we going to get playoff Kyle Lowry, or is he going to be struggling, maybe playing with some injuries like we saw throughout this regular season? Is he going to be playing good defense? Is he going to be switching off the ball? Is he going to be able to slow the game down for the Miami Heat and use his veteran presence to keep the Heat afloat? And for Atlanta, it's DeAndre Hunter. DeAndre Hunter's just kind of been around the NBA since he's been drafted. He played really well against the Knicks in the 2021 playoffs, but he's had his fair share of injuries and indecisiveness on the offensive floor. He's my X factor for the Atlanta Hawks. I'm taking the playoff experience, I'm taking the veteran experience, and just kind of noticeably, Trae Young has struggled against the Miami Heat, so I'm taking the Heat in this one to advance as the 7th seed to go up against the Celtics in round 1. Next up in the Western Conference, we have the LA Lakers versus the Minnesota Timberwolves. T-Wolves are the 8th seed, the Lakers are the 7th seed. All this went down on the final day of the regular season. It's must win for the Timberwolves against the Pelicans. I'll get into what happened in that game. As you guys all saw it, Rudy Gobert, Kyle Anderson, they got into an altercation on the bench. Gobert threw a punch. He got sent to the locker room. There were more arguments. He got sent home, and he's going to be suspended by the team for this game, so no Rudy Gobert. And what might hurt even more, Jaden McDaniels, their breakout defensive star this season, punched a wall after leaving the game upset. He fractured his hand. He's most likely out for this game as well, which is a huge loss. This team is already without Naz Reid, who we know is out, and Jalen Noel is day-to-day. Not looking great for him, but we'll see. The T-Wolves are 20-21 on the road. They did go 2-1 against the Lakers in the regular season series. They're a little bit below average on the offensive end. They're above average on the defensive end, but are going to be without their 2 best defenders in Gobert and McDaniels in this game. The Lakers are a better defensive team than they are offensive team when it comes comes to net rating. They have the best record though since the All-Star break. They're 23-18 at home, and my X factor in this game for the LA Lakers is D'Angelo Russell. What type of D'Lo are they going to get in this game? Is it somebody that can facilitate, take efficient shots, and maybe take over in spurts? Or could he be inefficient? That could also be a liability on the defensive end. I'm also intrigued to see what former Timberwolves can do in this game against their former team in Malik Beasley and Jared Vanderbilt. And my X factor for the Minnesota Timberwolves, who's definitely going to see more playing time in this game, is Taurean Prince. I assume that Karl-Anthony Towns is going to start at the 5 with Prince at the 4. Is he going to be able to be physical enough on the defensive end? Can he hit his threes? I'm also excited to see if Anthony Edwards can take over. This is the stage where he could break out on national television in the playoffs, quote unquote playoffs. We already saw his breakout season this year, but just like doing it in that playoff atmosphere, that setting on the national stage means a lot. I would have taken the Timberwolves if McDaniels and Gobert were playing, but I'm going with the LA Lakers, who have just been on a heater since the All-Star break. They're fully healthy, and they'll have a deeper team going into Tuesday's game. So let's go to the 9-10 matchup in the East. We have the Chicago Bulls versus the Toronto Raptors. Raptors being the 9 seed, Bulls being the 10 seed. The Raptors went 2-1 against the Bulls in the season series. Their most recent game was on February 28th, in which the Raptors won 104-98. Both teams are not good at shooting the three-point ball, and like I said in the beginning of the video, both teams definitely underachieved this season. Fred VanVleet and OG Anunoby are dealing with minor injuries, but it's looking like they will play in Wednesday's game. The Bulls are the better defensive team when it comes to net rating, and the Raptors are the better offensive team when it comes to net rating. My X factor for the Raptors is Fred VanVleet. Is he going to be efficient in this game? Is he going to use his playoff experience to help the Raptors win this one to advance and stay alive in the play-in tournament? Or is his thumb injury going to be bothering him and he's going to be hesitant to shoot the ball? For the Bulls, my X factor is Patrick Beverley. I'm not really intrigued to see what he's going to do on the offensive end, but is he going to make Fred VanVleet's life a living hell? I think this game is going to be very close, and the Bulls with Alex Caruso and Patrick Beverley have been kind of nasty on the defensive end since getting Papev in the buyout market. I'm going to predict the Bulls are going to win this one in a close one. It's looking like Nick Nurse is not going to be the coach next year for the Toronto Raptors. And yeah, the Bulls are going to end the Raptors season, which is going to end in kind of a big disappointment. The 9-10 matchup in the Western Conference is the 9-seeded Pelicans versus the 10th-seeded Thunder. I've talked about like the Eastern Conference underachievers this year. Shout out to OKC, man. Nobody really expected them to be this good this season. Shai Gilgeous-Alexander broke out. He's somebody that's going to finish with top 7 MVP votes this year. Shout out to Mark Daigneault. Shout out to Jalen Williams, Josh Giddey. The Thunder were super fun to watch this year. The Pelicans took this season series 3-1. We all know that Zion Williamson will not be playing in this game. My X factors come on the defensive end. For the OKC Thunder, it's Lou Dort. How well is he going to be guarding Brandon Ingram? And for the Pelicans, it's going to be Herb Jones. How effective is he going to be on the defensive end against Shai Gilgeous-Alexander? Both have tough tests in this game. Brandon Ingram has been one of the best NBA players over the last couple of weeks. The Pelicans have a deeper roster. I think that they're going to win this one. But shout out to the Thunder, man. I'm super excited to see where they are in the offseason and in 2024. So with the Heat advancing to the 2 seed, we have the Atlanta Hawks versus the Chicago Bulls for that 8 seed. And I'm going to take the 10-seeded Bulls to pull off the upset and get that 8 seed in the Eastern Conference. They're most likely not going to get their first round pick. It's going to go to Orlando. We got play-in tournament Pat Bev. I think him and Caruso are going to make Trae Young's life a living hell like they are to Fred VanVleet. DeMar DeRozan hasn't kind of been known to step up in the playoffs, but technically not the playoffs. It's in the play-in tournament, so we can get an elite DeRozan in this one. Things are looking a little bit eerie in Atlanta too, and the Bulls are going to end their disappointing season as well and get that 8 seed to go up against Milwaukee in round 1. And then in the West, we have a really good matchup between the Minnesota Timberwolves and the New Orleans Pelicans. Rudy Gobert, if they lose against the Lakers, will be back for this one. And I'm going to take the Timberwolves to survive in advance. We're just going to be watching 2 great wings go at each other. Brandon Ingram versus Anthony Edwards. I think this is where we're all going to come to the conclusion that Anthony Edwards is up next. He's going to be one of the best looked at young players in this league after the play-in tournament. So I'm taking the Timberwolves to beat the Pelicans and get the 8 seed in the West to go up against the Denver Nuggets. And a disappointing end to the Pelicans season as well. That looked so good before Zion ended up getting hurt. So yeah, I have the Heat beating the Hawks, and then I have the Bulls beating the Hawks to get the 7th and 8th seeds in the East. And in the West, I have the Lakers beating the Timberwolves, and then the Timberwolves beating the Pelicans. Let me know who you guys have advancing in the play-in tournament down below. Like I said, I'm gonna have my full playoff predictions before round 1 officially starts on Saturday, and I'll have also my awards show out soon as well. So thank you all for watching. I love you guys, and I'll catch you all on the next one. Peace.